But I'd say right now, what's becoming a little trendy, I think, is like colors. Bringing in, like I'm sure you've seen, you know, like the green tiles in a shower, and it's beautiful, but I think it's definitely more of a trendy look versus like a classic or timeless look.
Yeah.
I think your marbles, honestly, your marbles or your quartzites are going to be, to me, more timeless and classic, and you're not going to get that trendy feel from it.
This is Lived In, a podcast by Hemby Home Company in association with Haystack Realty Group in Greenville, North Carolina. Lived In exists to host thought-provoking discussions on design and real estate, empowering everyday home dwellers to live beautifully, regardless of budget or circumstance. Every 2 weeks, join me, your host, Femi Koz, a realtor, design advisor, and content manager, as we cover everything from how to effectively conduct a home search to which rooms are worth the investment in your home. Together, let's find out what it really takes to live beautifully. This season, we're hosting interviews with experts, putting the keys in your hand as you make some of the most important decisions that come with creating a beautiful place to live. This week, I'm interviewing Wesley Taylor and Mandy Vignali from C&C Stoneworks, based in Greenville, North Carolina. In business since 2014, C&C Stoneworks are fabricators of stone, offering tile, granite, quartz, marble, and a myriad of other options for bathrooms, kitchens, and other indoor and outdoor spaces. If you're thinking about how to update your home in big or small ways and want to know which materials work best, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Let's get into it. So, today I am recording with Mandy and Wesley. Am I saying Wesley right?
Yeah,
you say Wesley?
That's right, yeah.
I'm torn because in England people would say Wesley, like John Wesley, but everybody else says Wesley. Yeah. Anyway, I'm recording with Mandy and Wesley of C&C Stoneworks in Greenville, off of NC43 if you live locally, so you know where they are. And we're going to talk about everything tile, everything stoneworks, and they basically are professionals. I've only ever dealt with them, so I am a bit biased, but their service is great, their product is great, they know their stuff, so I feel very confident sharing them with all of you guys on the podcast. Okay, so Mandy, how long have you been with C&C?
I have been here since 2019, so a little over 5 years, right after I graduated college.
What did you go to college for?
Interior design.
Yes.
Yep, went to ECU, and I graduated in May, and I think I started here like 5 days after I graduated, and here I am. Yep.
That's awesome. And then how old is C&C?
We became an LLC, I believe, in 2014 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
I think
so right before Mandy joined then?
A couple years before that, yep.
How did you get started in this? Tell me your story.
So I was working at the city of Greenville as a firefighter paramedic. And while I was working there, I was also building houses and doing remodels. And I had a guy who was doing countertop work for me. He was going up in age and was getting ready to retire or sell his business. We couldn't really come to terms on numbers for me to buy it.
Yeah.
And I've always been one where if I can see somebody do something, I can do it. I'm just able to do stuff with my hands. Mm-hmm. So I purchased everything needed to start doing countertops with the thought of I'll just do countertops in the houses that I'm building, and then that's it. It ended up where I got everything going, and I think probably maybe the first dozen jobs were just for friends and family that pretty much did it just pure cost. Mm-hmm. And it just exploded from there. It went from doing that to insanely busy all the time. Yeah. I think after being in business for about a year, that particular guy, we ended up putting him out of business.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just taken off from there.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when did you stop being a paramedic?
I left the city of Greenville probably roughly, I'd say 6 years ago. We've been here 5 years now, so probably actually 6 or 7 years ago now. Yeah. It just got to a point where I was so busy with this company, and still at the time I was still doing a lot of remodels and home building, and it just made the most amount of sense to leave from there. Yeah. And then it got to the point where this place was so busy that it's now taking over everything, so I'm not really doing any building now anymore.
That's fair. I think you've got enough on your plate. Mm-hmm. So where does the name C&C Stoneworks come from?
My kids.
Your twins?
My twins.
That's really cool.
Yeah, their names are Colton and Catherine.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So this is like their business.
It came from them, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so then let's talk about what you guys do. If you were to summarize what your work looks like, is it commercial? Is it residential? What distribution around those? Are you mainly doing countertops? Are you mainly doing shower walls? What kind of is your scope?
Yeah.
We're doing a mix of all of that. Very light, I would say, with commercial. Probably 15% commercial, roughly. And then splitting the rest of it between builders and homeowners. We're probably, I'd say we're probably 50-50 between homeowners and builders.
Oh, wow.
But we do a mix between countertops. We do tile flooring, we do LVP flooring, we do tile showers, we do backsplashes. We can do full kitchen and full bathroom remodels as well. Because I have the background from a home builder and I have a contractor's license.
Yep.
We can dabble into some of that stuff as well. So a very, very wide range of things that we can do.
And then which one do you prefer, commercial or residential?
Residential.
Yeah, I would say
Why?
the same.
I
I like the aspect for me is just it's more personal.
Yep.
You know, you get to meet the people you're working with and things like that instead of just kind of a lot of commercial aspects. They're just kind of putting something in to put something in, and it's no like personality to it.
Yeah.
I would completely agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
You probably make more money on a commercial than you do on a residential.
Well, I don't know that I would say that. I think they're probably both about equal. I think it's exactly what Mandy said. With commercial, it's pretty just muted.
It's a little bit more cut and dry.
Yeah, it's nothing special. It's it's a job, and when you get done, it's still something great to look at. But there's nothing that's over the top, just absolutely beautiful, extravagant. It's very rare that you would find a commercial job that they go way above and beyond on something that a homeowner would possibly do, or a custom home would possibly do.
And I know you did the countertops in Coastal Fog, the new Coastal Fog.
Yes.
And those are honed granite?
Yep.
Was it honed or leather?
Well, it's technically a leather, but it's very light leather, so it's basically like a honed, just more of like a matte finish than like the glossiness that you see normally.
Have you done any other commercial countertops or anything like that in Greenville that people might have recognized or interacted with?
Apartment comps. Yeah, Sup Dogs.
Sup Dogs, both of the bars and Sup Dogs we did.
We've done apartment complexes. We've done some medical offices. I've done a couple, maybe one or two lawyers' offices.
Blunt, whatever.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones that we may have done. I mean, we've done some stuff in schools.
Yeah.
A lot in Beaufort County.
Yeah.
Here recently we've done a lot of schools. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys don't just serve Greenville. You go as far as OBX.
We go a huge area.
We've been to Dunn. We go to Ocracoke. We do.
You take them on the ferry to
Yeah, that's a whole day affair.
Yes.
Yeah, the guys don't love it when we send them there, but
yeah. We've been as far north as Richmond, Virginia.
Wow.
As far south as Wilmington, and out west, Durham area.
Yeah.
So huge area.
I mean, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Especially Richmond. I'm assuming they just knew of you?
From what I was told, they couldn't find anybody in the Richmond area wanting to do what we did for them.
A lot of other things too is I find like it's people who live here and have a second home in those areas, and they're like, I've already worked with you here. Would you go to my house here? And we're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And kind of ends up doing it that way, but.
Okay, I have so many questions and there are so many directions to go. So I want to start with maybe let's talk about. I want to know your opinions on LVP and LVT and how well they last and what you would recommend, and if there's a difference. If all, I'm assuming that they're not all LVPs are created equal. So like how can people be aware of, I guess, the level, the quality of what they're getting, what makes the most sense, what's going to endure?
There is commercial and there is residential LVP, and what the difference on those is the wear layer on them. There is LVPs. It's like anything else. You could go to a store like Lumber Liquidators, and more than likely the stuff you're going to get there would be something like probably a secondary product, or like a factory reject type deal. It's going to be the same at Lowe's. The stuff that we have is been through quality controls, and it's coming straight from a manufacturer. I think the next step would be just probably brand at that point. We love Mannington stuff.
Okay.
Really, really good. Really great product. They stand behind it. It's a good, thick product. So it's kind of like anything else in life. It's, what you're willing to pay for it. And obviously, if you're looking to save a ton of money and you don't want to spend a lot of money, then that's going to probably affect the quality of it a lot as well. And I say a lot of money. It's still not that expensive. It's just, it just really depends on the application that you're trying to put it in.
And then do you guys differentiate? Because I feel like a lot of people use LVP and LVT interchangeably.
We use LVP, and it's because it's a plank.
Right.
And, that long, wide plank is kind of what I feel like would be in style. That's what most people are doing versus LVT stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we have both, but I think a lot of times when people want LVP, they want the wood look.
Yeah.
So the plank style achieves that wood look without having to pay for real wood or deal with the upkeep of real wood. But I feel like here recently, like more and more LVPs or LVT both are getting so popular that they're coming out with like so many different designs and LVTs or Ps that look like tiles.
Right.
So just the durability, which it is very durable. We have it in our whole showroom, and it's nice. There's no grout. There's no, you're not going to crack it. You're not going to chip it. Things like that. So waterproof.
Yes, that's the...
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's nice for like people that are building whole homes. Like if you wanted to be simple, you could put LVP throughout your entire home and make it fine.
And then you guys don't do wood though. You're not doing hardwoods because
no hardwoods. We'll do engineered floors, but nothing hardwood that would need to be laid, sanded, finished, that type of stuff. Yeah.
And then if someone came to you and asked, and I know you're probably going to give me a degree of answers here, but if somebody came to you and asked, should I get an LVP or should I get an engineered hardwood, what would you recommend?
That's going to depend on
I knew you were going to say that.
it's their everyday life. So for instance, we have a customer who has big dogs, and the LVP is going to be good for him because it's not going to scratch like an engineered wood. Because an engineered wood floor, it's wood. It's wood, so it's still going to scratch. It's still going to wear. And some engineered floors, you can actually sand them and refinish them.
Like
and I think it's like a limited amount of times that you could do that. So it would really come down to what the homeowner is after and as far as durability on what they're trying to do.
And are there limits on what material you can have on your flooring if you're doing a underfloor heating? Or can you basically use any material? You could use an LVP, you could use an engineered.
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked that. That is a really good question.
I see it more on with tile and bathrooms.
Yeah, with tile and bathrooms, it wouldn't really matter. But with flooring, the only thing that I would know of is if your house was on a concrete slab and you were heating the slab. And if you were heating the slab, then it wouldn't matter what you would put down. But if there was a product that I'm not aware of one that you would put down and then put flooring over top of it, that would be probably a huge... some sort of issue because the flooring has got to interlock in itself. Engineered floors, a lot of them are nailed down in place, so it would I'm sure it would have an effect on it. So I think as long as it's on the concrete slab and the slab was heated, I don't think it would matter what you put on it.
Okay, so we've got LVP, we've got LVT, we've got engineered hardwoods. You guys obviously do tile flooring.
Yep.
I'm assuming, are people doing slabs of flooring in bathrooms?
They do. We haven't really quite got into it. We do more when we're doing like porcelain slabs and things like that. Definitely more for, fireplaces, shower walls, larger areas like that. You can put them on floors, but I don't know that we've had really the customers that come in looking for that yet. But we're definitely getting more into like even just in a porcelain tile, the larger format. So up to like 36 by 72, 24 by 48, like some pretty decent sized tiles.
It would be a whole other episode, but I would love to pick your brain on tile and then grout color because it makes such a huge difference. But that's a whole other episode.
We can do that later.
So what are the differences between the types of tile that people can put on the floor? I know there's porcelain, but then there's also ceramic. Is there another one?
I don't know.
Those really the main.
That's probably about the only one.
So there's a Zelig tiles. I don't know what they're called. Everybody says them differently.
I don't know that that's something that would go on a floor. I guess it maybe could. It's those like really thick, like
I've really
almost
seen them
clay
backslashes,
ones.
yeah.
They're like the very like handmade more tiles. I mean, I guess you could possibly put them on the floor.
That's a manufacturer thing, though.
Yeah, it depends on how they're made. A lot of times where you're getting it from, things like that will tell you what the ratings are on each tile. And, you know, another thing with that is if it's a glossy one, you know, you don't want to put anything glossy on the floor for slipping and things like that. So, but yeah, I definitely see it way more on backsplashes or like shower walls, things like that. But
so what's the main difference between the ceramic and the porcelain? Like if I was going to install those on the floor.
The porcelain is going to have a whole lot more realistic look. Way more realistic look. So for instance, the porcelain slabs that we can use for shower walls, countertops, or whatever, they're basically the print on them is laser etched onto them. I mean, they really find the prettiest material of a marble that they like, and then they pretty much copy it onto a big slab. So it'll be the look with porcelain. Porcelain you can also put outside, where the ceramic you would not want to put outside because the weather would be an issue with it.
Okay.
So porcelain I'd probably say be a little bit more durable than the ceramic.
And I feel like you find more often for when you're looking at least in the size of like a floor tile or a shower wall tile, they're almost more often than not always porcelain. A lot of times your ceramics are more ones that you might be using for your backsplash or your like in a niche, like a decorative tile, things like that sometimes versus an actual 12 by 24 size tile. Those I feel like more often than not are porcelains.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have porcelain in our bathroom. My husband installed it. He hated installing it. He was like, I'm never doing this again. It's a really small bathroom. Like it's probably smaller than this room. And it's a full bathroom, like tub, sink,
all the things,
toilet is all in there. And so he didn't have to cover that much flooring. And we used large format tiles, so there was minimal grout. But he was like, it was the worst experience. But then it chipped in one area. And I don't know if it was a child dropped something on it or I have no idea. But that's a problem with porcelain because it's on the top. It's not all the way through.
That is correct.
Yep, so then you just see the interior of it. That's just like the plain color,
So on ceramics, if it chips, is it usually all the way through or is it still printed on the top?
It depends on the ceramic tile.
Okay.
Because a ceramic tile, most of the time, it's not going to usually match the body as well. So it really just depends on the manufacturer of tile.
Even like the handmade xylage type tiles, a lot of times, you know, you can see the like clay, whatever it's made up of on the edges, but you still have whatever color you're picking as more of like an enamel on the top of it. So that doesn't even go all the way through. Most of, I guess, the only stuff that
you're going to find any tile that's going to be through body.
It would then turn into your natural stone, your quartz, stuff like that. That is going to be through body your whole piece.
How much? So I've been thinking about this recently. The last episode I did in season 2 was about Chip and Joanna Gaines because they renovated a lake house and they had different flooring in every room and I find that really jarring. I don't really like that. My ideal is it's mostly the same flooring throughout. Maybe the bedrooms are different. But I was thinking about what flooring you could have, and I think the engineered hardwoods or the LVP is the one that's going to be the universal one.
Yeah.
But in terms of stone, are you guys seeing terracotta or are people using those? I like limestones, but I don't really see them anywhere.
Yeah, not a ton. There is a quartz that we recently got a newer sample of that is basically like just entirely like an orange terracotta color.
Yeah.
I have yet to see many people gravitate towards it. And I also think a lot of that has to do with the region you're in. Like, it just depends on where you are. Obviously, we're not far from the beach. I feel like we tend to do a lot of more of your coastal looks here. But I'm sure if you're in, you know, Arizona or California or somewhere, you might find a lot more of that look. As for like limestone, don't see a ton of it. Travertine we probably see more often than anything. That type of look. A lot of people also are looking for travertine. You can find slabs of travertine, it's just not super common. So like we typically would do travertine for like around pools, porches, things like that.
So you do quite a lot of outdoor installs as well?
We do outdoor kitchens with the travertine stuff. Yep, absolutely.
That's good to know. I don't know why I didn't think that you did. I didn't know that.
Lived In is brought to you by Haystack Realty Group. At Haystack Realty Group, we're all about giving back to the community. That's why 5% of every commission goes into our 501c3 Spread the Hay, used to support teachers, social workers, students, and other local initiatives. Last year, our agents and their clients contributed $25,000 towards community efforts, and this year we're hoping to do even more. If you're thinking about buying property and want some help, or if you'd like to know how much your land or property is worth, click the links in our show notes or go to www.haystackre.com. That's www.haystackre.com.
Okay, so let's move on to kitchens, because I feel like, or not just kitchens, I guess, actually kitchen and bathroom, just countertops.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that's a big part of your business, but I don't actually know.
Huge part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love, and I made a list before we did this of the different materials that I could think of, but I might be missing some. So I had granite, quartz, quartzite, marble, soapstone, porcelain.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's all of them.
And then you could get into like the travertine.
Yeah.
Limestone. Again, limestone. There's onyx is another one, but those are ones that you're definitely not going to see as often. They're also, a little bit more rare, so harder to find. Typically, then in turn makes them a little more expensive. Yes. So not always what people are wanting to do.
Yeah.
I would say for sure, granite, quartz, marble, quartzite are probably your most popular.
So, and this is now a Wesley question. I will take it back to you in a second.
No, that's okay.
The Wesley question is, what are the main differences between the materials? What's best for what function?
So, granites come from above the earth. Marbles come from below the earth.
Okay, I'm ready, Lenny.
Granites are very durable. Depends on the color. So the lighter the color, the less dense it is. So the softer it is.
Okay.
So then it tends to have fissures, pits, that type of stuff in it. Which when we get the slab, once it's mined and they start creating the slabs out of it, they resin feel all of that stuff, so that you then really don't see it as bad in your kitchen. Your next would be your marbles from below the earth. Depends on the marble. For instance, it's kind of hard to think about it, but the deeper you dig into the earth, the softer the material becomes.
Okay.
Because it hasn't had as much time to form into a rock.
That makes sense.
So there is, for instance, there is quartzites that the more they mine those quartzites, they end up then turning into a marble because they've become soft. So your granites are good options. Your marbles are good options depending on the marble, depending on how soft it is. Quartzites, same thing. They're very hard. Not quite that durable. A lot of people think that they are durable.
They're very absorbent.
They are very, very...
More than a marble would be?
Very, very much more. They are extremely, extremely thirsty.
They're sensitive to even like oils on your hands in the same spot all the time, things like that.
Yep.
And they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Marble and quartzite to me are definitely the prettiest stones out there because they just have so much character and the fact that it's a natural, organic thing that's like coming out of the earth. But a lot of times what I say is like you just have to be aware of what you're signing up for. Like we have marble in our kitchen here and it's got scratches all over it, but it doesn't change the look of our kitchen as a whole. It's still a beautiful material and it looks great. But if you're going to get a magnifying glass and look for it, you're going to find it. So a lot of times people will fall in love with a marble they find, and as soon as you're like, oh yeah, but that's a marble, like they're like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that. I'm like, well, you should probably do what you want. You just have to be kind of aware of the upkeep and what might happen to it. And if you're good with that, then you're good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think quartzites are really huge right now. I think a lot of people are trying to push them.
And I think, again, just because people are so afraid of the word marble.
Correct.
So as soon as they're like, oh, that's a quartzite, not a marble. But even though quartzite is essentially like a hard marble.
Yeah, it becomes more expensive.
Quartzite.
Yeah, okay.
It can depend. That's so hard. Is because you could definitely find, one marble that's twice the cost of a different quartzite, and then same with vice versa.
Okay. So it's based on availability, is what it is. So something that's super rare and it's hard to mine, it's going to be more expensive. So it just really depends on the availability of it. But it seems that everybody's trying to push to quartzites. We have a lot of homeowners that designers are telling them they have to use quartzites, but it's...
Well, with that being said, though, it's if you're trying to achieve a certain
the
look,
look, yeah.
I mean, you've got to go with a marble or a quartzite.
Yeah.
Quartz tries really hard to mimic the look, but for me, it's like you're always going to be able to tell, or at least, you know, I work in it, so I can probably tell a little bit easier than other people, but you can tell the natural versus the not natural look. So it just kind of depends. Again, like if that's what you want and that's the look you're trying to go for, you're going to have to go with something like that. I think porcelain has gotten better at the mimicking look of like the marbles and stuff, but then there's a whole different story with putting porcelain on your countertops too. So
I said it to you before, but I would love for you to say it for everybody.
That's fine.
How do you feel about installing porcelain?
Porcelain's, I mean, it's got its place. It's gorgeous. I think it would look great in kitchens. It's extremely labor intensive to put in kitchens. And you're back to the situation we were talking about earlier with tile. If something chips, there's not much you can do to fix it. Now you just have a chip. Where in your granites or your marbles or your quartz, if you chip something, there's a really good chance that we can fix it and almost fix it to the point where you can't see it. But with porcelain, that's not going to happen. It's just going to chip. So, I mean, it's got its place, but as far as durability wise, I don't know. I don't like the idea that it would chip.
No, I don't like the idea that it would chip either. You guys put quartz in our kitchen probably a year ago-ish. And I remember the first time there was a scratch and I freaked out. And it's like the cheapest quartz. It's the solid white. And I tried to wipe it away, it wouldn't go away. And then I just gently rubbed my magic eraser on it and it went away. And I was like, okay, we're good. We have since gotten to like dips, but the nice thing about quartz, you've said before, you're like, oh, you can get that out. And it's solid white. It's not like there's a pattern to protect. I think I struggle with quartz because I love the price of quartz compared to marble and the fact that quartz will kind of hold up to stains. But I really don't like things that look like something that they're not. And so I just struggle because I want the texture. I love the texture of marble. And even I love the texture of quartz. Like I like it when it feels like what it is. Where porcelain always is smooth, quartz is always smooth. And it just isn't. I don't know. It's just not the same.
Well, we can get quartz with a suede finish or a matte finish, but I mean it's quartz like you said. And the other downfall of quartz is you can't put anything hot on it. It's not heat resistant.
Is granite more heat resistant?
Granite and the marble and porcelain are all heat resistant.
Oh wow! So you just put like
you probably wouldn't
recommend it.
Oh, you absolutely can.
You can. I feel like when I'm like working with people, a lot of times I'll say that, and if you've ever had laminate or if you've ever had Formica before, almost everyone is always like, well, I don't do that anyway. So, especially when they're looking for quartz, it's nice to hear that because then, they're not going to be worried about how they're going to act in their kitchen. But if like, I've had people that sometimes have had granite before and are trying to upgrade to a quartz and they're like, oh gosh, I'm so used to putting, right out of the oven directly on my granite. And I'm like, well, maybe don't do that.
So, okay. How would you, I don't want to rank them on quality, but maybe we can rank them on pricing and affordability generally. What is going to be the cheapest option and what's going to be the most expensive option of all of those?
Cheapest would be granite.
All of these are definitely going to vary a lot on depending, which ones you might pick, the size of what you need, availability, like Wesley said, things like that. But generally speaking, I feel like it definitely starts at your granites. And then probably to like a quartz.
To an entry level quartz. And then after that, it would be a pretty decent jump to get into a marble. And then quartzite after that.
And it's just hard because there's marbles like Fantasy Brown is a very popular marble. We use a ton of it and it's very cost effective. It's technically, it's considered a marble, and most of the time when people think marble, they think, oh, this is going to be so expensive. But I think that's because there's so much of it. So like you said, with the availability and how rare it is, how easy it is to get, it's so easy to get and it's everywhere. So it has the opportunity to be more cost effective. So it just really depends.
Now I'm going to have to look up Fantasy Brown after this.
It's a really pretty one.
And it'll react like a granite. Most companies actually will try and sell it and call it that it's a granite. But it is not. It comes from at least 600 feet down below the earth.
It has like the characteristics of a granite when it comes to, like you said, durability, things like that, but it's technically classified as a marble, yeah.
Because of where it's mined,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep, and it comes out of India.
And you can almost tell too, a lot of your granites aren't gonna have like the more like wispy movement and veining per se, things like that. A lot of times how you can kind of tell what a granite is more often than not, it's more like speckled, more, I don't even know the term, like, you know what I'm saying? Not as much movement per se. It doesn't have flow really to it. And like Fantasy Brown, once you look it up, you'll see it typically always has a lot of really nice like movement swooping from one side to the other with veining and things like that.
You said something and it triggered something in my head, and what was it? It was, you said it's from India. Quartz is the only one that's man-made, correct?
Correct.
And
Quartz
porcelain.
and porcelain, yeah.
And porcelain are man-made. What about soapstone?
It's a natural stone.
That's a natural one.
Soapstone is soft.
Very, very soft.
It's beautiful, and it typically only ever comes in dark colors.
Yeah.
So you'll find it black, gray, blue, green,
Yeah.
things like that. And it'll have a little bit of like white through it
No,
sometimes.
we'll do a lot of it.
Nice.
Fireplaces.
Yeah, like our fireplace in here has it, and that's kind of what I'm saying is it's so soft because we've got scratches all over it. And
Well, I was about to say, could you explain what you mean when you say a material is soft versus hard?
yeah, that's kind of back to what he was saying with like the density of it. So it just hasn't been as compact for as long, I guess, essentially. And so it just reacts more to pressure if you're sliding things across it, things like that. So just more easily, on a granite, you could probably put your frying pan down and slide it across the whole thing. It's not going to scratch. But if you were to do that on a marble or a soapstone, you're probably going to see some scratches.
Yeah. And then where does soapstone fall in terms of pricing compared to the others?
I feel like probably close to like marble.
Yeah, it's probably close to marble. Yeah.
Maybe not like a super high-end marble, but yeah. And it's also just, again, it's not super desirable. I feel like you have to be looking exactly for that to want it. Like there's so many different light patterns in a quartz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like there's only so many dark things, and if you're looking for dark, you're looking for dark.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you kind of have already narrowed it down to the few options.
What are trends that you're seeing? Because you're the one who's typically kind of helping
Yes,
people pick.
I would say definitely for a long time. I'm sure everyone talks about this with like the grays. It was gray, and then it switched for sure to doing a lot of like the mixing of both.
Okay.
So we do a ton of material that has your gray and your gold in it, or your warm and your cool tones. Same thing with like mixing metals. Like I think for a long time people were afraid to, oh, my faucet is this color, all my knobs have to be this color, my fridge is stainless steel, what do I do? It doesn't matter. Like I always almost encourage people to do like their faucet one finish and your pole's a different finish, things like that. But I'd say right now what's becoming a little trendy, I think, is like colors. Bringing in, like I'm sure you've seen, like the green tiles in a shower, and it's beautiful, but I think it's definitely more of a trendy look versus like a classic or timeless look. I think your marbles or your quartzites are going to be, to me, more timeless and classic, and you're not going to get that trendy feel from it. Whereas I think there are some quartz out there that you can achieve that with, but it kind of takes time and research to really find like the specific one that works for you. But I feel like off the bat, a lot of quartz are more of a trendy look. Especially the ones that have like your kind of big dramatic veins that very much so look like they're engineered.
Yes.
To me, that's something that is beautiful and it's great, but I think it's something that if I was walking a house years later, I'd be like, oh, that was years ago, that type of thing. Whereas your marble and your quartzites definitely have that like timeless look to them.
What's your favorite to install?
Well, I like installing them all because they all have unique challenges. But as far as the easiest to install would be a quartz.
Why is that?
Easy to see?
Well, it's just because it's man-made and it's resin-based. It's way more durable, so it's less likely to break.
Okay. Yeah.
And everything that we work with is fragile, and it can break under its own weight. So with quartz, the chances of that happening is slim to none. So it makes an install a little less nerve-wracking.
With that being the man-made one, does that mean it's the least eco-friendly, do you think, of all of the stones?
I would have to imagine so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's petroleum driven, so I would imagine it has to be.
I was wondering, because we got our countertops installed, and then I read something and it was like, installing quartz is, or like harvesting of quartz, or however they were describing it, they were like, it can be really harmful for the people who are doing it, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, I didn't know anything about that. So I was curious, because I thought, I would think too, if you're mining, you're probably using a lot of the same, I don't know, you're probably having the same effect. Maybe. I don't know. I was just curious if you guys knew.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I would have to imagine because it's resin based, it can't be but so good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, but the same thing, I would imagine a natural stone in the
With
form
the
of
elements and stuff.
mining it. I would imagine it's probably not that great for who's mining it as
Right.
well. But
But that's even part of where I've seen with like what the fabricating it when you're getting the dust and stuff, like you're supposed to always wear the masks and things like that, because there's technically, I mean, it's a rock, it's a stone that comes out of the earth, so there are natural elements there.
Yeah.
But they're so minimal that, I don't know, I've seen things online where people are like,
yeah.
oh, I would never put granite in my home because of the radon or whatever's in it. And I'm like, I don't think it's that extreme.
Yeah, because we had remember it was a geologist or something came in here one day, and he was talking about it.
And saying all the facts.
And he was like,
like, I didn't know all that part of it.
Yeah, he was like, no, there's not anything in it to harm you.
That's good.
For as a homeowner.
Yes.
Aspect,
Yeah.
All right, so then the question for you, what's your favorite, I guess, use? What's your favorite that you've seen? Someone's come in, you've worked with them, they've chosen a countertop or a backsplash.
I'm still probably stuck on like the natural, like the marble or the quartzites. I love Taj Mahal. We do a handful of Taj Mahal. I feel like it's probably one that a lot of people have heard of before, Taj Mahal quartzite. It's very neutral, natural, warm. And it's pretty. You can do a lot with it, and it doesn't get to be too much because it's very subdued. So, we've seen, waterfall edges. We've seen full height backsplashes with it, and it still is like calming. Yes. It's not like too much when you walk into a space, which I can appreciate. But at the same time, like, there's a ton of quartz jobs we've done where it looks awesome. And I think things like that, like in a sense of a waterfall edge too, I think quartz can be really nice. Or also with full height backsplash, because the way that the movement is through it, and to see that vein just kind of flow right up the backsplash or right down the waterfall, it just looks really nice when it's done. I don't know, I like when like people take a risk. It's kind of fun, and like when I get excited to be like, oh, I can't wait to see this finish, like it's gonna look so good. It doesn't happen a ton because I think people like to be safe, which I can understand. I mean, it's not like this is a cheap process that people are going through. But when it does come around and someone's like, oh, I love this pop of color, like we're going to do this, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that.
Do you guys do book matches? Are people still doing that where it's like, it's split right down the middle? Interesting.
So it just depends. Not every stone is offered in a book match. More of your man-made ones are because they are man-made, but with your natural stones, if I guess they do that when it's mined, if they didn't finish it that way, if that makes sense.
It's just finishing the back side.
Exactly, yeah. So if they're always finishing the front side of every slab, then those are going to be just matching slabs. But if they flip-flop it, then that's where you get your book match. And so, that's sometimes out of our control. If it doesn't come book match, it doesn't. I like the way it looks in a good setting. If you're just doing like a standard seam in the middle of a sink or something, you probably don't need some dramatic book match there in the center. You could probably make it look better just by a matching slab at that point. But, like the wall we have there, it has the book match there. A lot of times in a big shower wall, we'll try to do a book match, so it kind of shows like more of a statement.
Yeah. Or on a backsplash for like full height backsplashes.
Exactly.
Same thing.
That's so nice. I wished when we were doing our countertops that we had more open shelving, because I would have done
so pretty.
But I was trying to do a simple change.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Can you explain kind of the different finishes when it comes to a countertop? So obviously you can do like the honed, but you could also adjust the edges. Just all of the different kind of options that come with.
Well, you want edges or you want finishes?
Both.
All of it.
There's
a lot of different edges.
A ton of edges.
A ton of different edges. Your finishes are mostly going to be your leathered honed, which is kind of the same thing as a matte or a suede finish, and you're polished for the most part.
We had an iced finish one time.
Yeah, which is like a leather, but it still was kind of glossy.
Yeah.
That one, I feel like it was only the one time that I've really seen that.
Yep.
And edges, again, there's just a ton. You can do your OG edge, which is pretty decorative. You've done one that's like almost the opposite of an OG, like a waterfall edge, which is not the same as like the waterfall all the way to the floor. It's just still kind of just along the edge of your countertop. I would say that it's pretty rare that we do a different edge than just your standard like eased or pencil, which is kind of like square and rounded over. I personally think that the different edges can be a little bit dating depending on which one you go with. I think OG can be good in the right setting because it kind of gives you like an old-timey, timeless feel with that. Yeah, but then some of the other ones I think are just kind of more dating than just keeping it square and rounded over.
What's the most popular? Probably just square and rounded.
It's pretty rare that we do anything different than that. There's bevel, there's a bull nose.
Half bull nose.
Yeah.
I mean,
a half bevel, all the different things.
You can pretty much near about come up with whatever you want. I mean, you can start stacking different style edges as well.
Also, a chiseled edge we did. We've done a handful of times, which is basically like you clamp off like pieces of the edge.
It's just rocked.
We did it in like a river house somewhere in like Belhaven or somewhere, and it was like supposed to be that kind of rusticy feel, which is something definitely different. You have to be kind of looking for an edge like that, but I would definitely say the most popular is just kind of your eased and penciled edge that's rounded over.
All right, my next question. Almost there. Have you done any like unusual installs? So I know typically you do countertops, you do flooring. One of my favorite things, and you guys will do it in my next house, is I really want to do marble baseboards and marble trim work.
Have you done that? Yep, we did that not long ago actually.
Yeah. We did the whole bathroom. We did a shower and all. We did marble tiles on the floor.
Yeah.
Then we actually did Carrera. We cut Carrera marble baseboards.
Yeah.
And then we did porcelain walls for a shower.
Wow. Yeah.
It's that's I think again a thing that is a little rare to find because it's like those details. I think a lot of times if you're just kind of trying to update your home to either sell it or to just kind of you have to, then people don't really get into that. But when you're looking for something really specific and unique, I think that's when people kind of get creative. And like here coming up, we're about to do a big like vanity sink where the sink is just integrated right into it out of the marble. That's and really nice. It's nice when people take those risks. Like I said, like I'm excited to see that one done. So but not a ton. I feel like a lot of times people just keep it kind of simple.
All right, last question. And I warned you about this question at the beginning, and it is, what do you think about peel and stick tile?
I think it's very cheap.
And I think it's not a bad idea if you're trying to do maybe a temporary update, if you're renting, things like that, DIY situation. But I think if you're trying to update, your full kitchen and you're going to be putting this like expensive quartz in there, I'd be like, do you really want to put peel and stick? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's kind of what you said about earlier with something different where it's like there's a use for it, but it's not always the right use.
As far as if you were putting something in there that was going to be somewhat permanent, then I think it would be one of those things where it's changing stuff out pretty regularly because I'm just not sure how well it would stay.
And I feel like, I don't know the cost, so I can't say it like a blanket statement. But I think if I'm going to do before I did peel and stick tile, I'll be like, okay, well, how much more is it to just do like a white subway tile?
Exactly.
Like, because in my head, that's probably one of the cheaper options. I can just 100%. Throw in a white subway tile. And as I do feel like subway is somewhat overdone, but I also think it could be done really well and be very classic. So I also think that's actually a really safe option that's not gonna.
You won't have to. Also, you won't have to like worry about trying to change it in X years if your peel and stick starts falling off, or
I don't know the cost of it, but I can't imagine it would be that much more different to do a subway tile by splash.
And it also then depends on the area that you're putting it in. Obviously, you probably can't really put. I mean, I guess if you're talking about those, like the membrane, like rolls that you put on and then you can stick actual tile to, that would maybe be like a little bit better, but I still don't know how that would work in like a shower application.
No, I've heard it.
Okay, I was like,
it's only for backsplash.
Yeah, we wouldn't do anything with wet.
That's what I was going to say, because how would you waterproof the situation? Yeah. So then I guess that's an aspect too. Like you can't really do it everywhere and durability and things like that, but.
Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you both so much.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to C&C and they have questions, what's the best way to do that?
You can.
You guys
text,
can't see the
call, email, all the things. I mean, you can come in here. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and there's always someone in here. We can answer all your questions. You can. People message us on Instagram, on Facebook. Yeah, we have a lot of outlets. So
yeah, I'll make sure I link all of those as well.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
That's it for now. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you soon.